Plato's line in Allegory of the Cave. Now Plato begins this discussion by looking at the lovers of opinion and the lovers of wisdom. As he sees it, the philosophers are the true lovers of the vision of truth. They are the lovers of wisdom. Now, to distinguish between the lovers of wisdom and the lovers of opinion, he must make a distinction between the one and the many. He contends, through the character of Socrates, that since beauty is the opposite of ugliness, there are two. And of course, being two, each is one. And he believes this extends to all things. For example, in the case of just, the unjust is the opposite. Hence, they are two. And each of them, of course, is one. The same applies to good, evil, etc. And as he sees it, it's a combination of these ones with actions that they appear many. So it's a combination of the forms somehow with actions, things in each other, they appear to be many. Now, turning now to the lovers of sights and sounds, he claims the lovers of sounds and sights are fond of tones, color, forms, and artificial products made from them. But, even though they love these sights and sounds, their minds cannot see or love absolute beauty. And he regards it to be the case that a person's life is a dream, who believes in the beautiful things, but somehow fails to believe in absolute beauty. Why? Well, whether one is asleep or awake, it is dreamlike to mistake the image for a real thing. In contrast to those who are lovers of sights and sounds, who are essentially dreaming, one is awake who, for him, recognizes the existence of absolute beauty, is able to distinguish the idea from the objects which participate in the idea, and does not put the objects in the place of the idea/form, nor the idea/form in place of the objects. And as he sees it, the mind of one who knows has knowledge, and the mind of the other, the lover of sights and sounds, has mere opinion. Now what he has to do, of course, is distinguish between knowledge and opinion. He does this by distinguishing between being and non-being. So his epistemology is quite strongly linked to his metaphysics. Now his first argument in regards to the distinction is the being and non-being argument for the distinction. Now he contends first that one who has knowledge knows something. And he contends further that absolute being may be absolutely known, but the utterly non-existent is thus utterly unknown. So knowledge, for him, corresponds to being, and ignorance corresponds to not being. And if there's anything that can be and also not be, it'll be between these two, between pure being and absolute negation of being. His next argument for the distinction is the spheres and faculties argument. Faculties, such as sight and hearing, are powers in us by which we do as we do. And as he sees it, what is the same sphere and same result is the same faculty, and what has another sphere and another result is thus different. Knowledge and opinion are, of course, both faculties, but they are not the same. And the reason for this is that knowledge and opinion have distinct powers and distinct spheres and subject matters. Being is a sphere of knowledge, and knowledge is to know the nature of being. And the opinion is to have an opinion. If difference in faculty implies a difference in the sphere, and if opinion and knowledge are distinct faculties, then it follows that the sphere of knowledge and of opinion cannot be the same. Thus, as he sees it, justifying and supporting the distinction. Now he also takes not being to not be the subject matter of opinion. When one has an opinion, one has an opinion about something. One cannot have an opinion about nothing. One who has an opinion about some one thing, and not being, as he sees it, is not one thing, but nothing. So, opinion, then, is an intermediate. Ignorance is the correlative of not being. And the correlative of being, not surprisingly, is knowledge. Opinion, then, is not concerned with being or not being. Hence, it is neither ignorance nor knowledge. So opinion, thus, is an intermediate between the two, between ignorance and knowledge. Its correlative is and is not at the same time. It is between pure being and absolute not being. So the corresponding faculty, as you recall that for Plato, separate, sphere, separate faculty, cannot be knowledge or ignorance, but must be something else. And the something else is, of course, opinion. Now, the object of opinion is, of course, not being or not being, as he has stated. So what then is the object of opinion? Well, as he sees it, the beautiful here in this world will in some point of view be found ugly, and the same for the rest. For example, think of like a person that someone regards as beautiful. There will be other people who regard that person as not being beautiful, or similarly with art. If someone regards a particular work as beautiful, there of course will be others who regard it as ugly. So, the ideas of the multitude about the beautiful and all other such things are halfway between pure being, which would be the case of beauty, absolute beauty, and pure not being, which of course would be nothing. So they're in an intermediate between these two extremes, nothing and pure being. And this, anything of this kind, is a matter of opinion, and of course not knowledge. So then he can present a clear distinction between the lovers of opinion and the lovers of wisdom. Those who have opinion, but do not have knowledge, see the many beautiful things, but they do not see absolute beauty. They see the many just, but not absolute justice. They see the many whatever, but not the absolute whatever, for all things. They are lovers of opinions, rather than lovers of wisdom. Those who see the absolute, eternal and immutable, have knowledge, and not merely opinion. These people are the lovers of the truth and wisdom, and not lovers of opinion. So for Plato, the distinction between lovers of opinion and wisdom is the object of their love. The lovers of wisdom love the Platonic forms, the lovers of opinion love the mere things that are here. We now turn to the objects of knowledge. Now, as we saw before, Plato is taking the view that there are many beautiful and many good things, and so too for all things described and defined. There are many, mice, many people, many horses, and of course we apply to them the term many. Now we've also seen that on Plato's view, there is an absolute beauty, an absolute good, absolute mouse, absolute whatever, for all the things to which the term many is applied. There must be, on his view, an absolute. They fall under a single idea, or to use another term, form, which is the essence of each. The many, as he sees it, are seen. You see the mouse, you see the horse, you see, court cases. But the ideas / forms are known but not seen. So we do not see the form of mouse. We do not see the form of justice. We do not see the form of horse. We do not see the form of beauty. We just see the many beautiful things. Now he draws two analogies here, one to the eye and one to the sun. The eye analogy works like this. As we know, at least for human beings, in the moonlight and starlight, the eye sees but dimly. And when we are in sunshine, the eyes can see clearly. Now he draws an analogy between the eye and the soul. When resting on what truth and being shine, the soul perceives, understands, and has intelligence. So just as the eye, physical eye, when light is shown upon something, it can see it, the soul, when truth and being shine on something, the soul perceives and understands. In contrast, however, when the soul turns towards the twilight of becoming and perishing, she has mere opinion, and seems to lack intelligence. So as Plato is presenting it, when the soul is focusing on the forms, it has knowledge, perception of this knowledge. It perceives, understands, and has intelligence. But when looking at the world in which we live, of becoming and perishing, there is mere opinion. Now, a second analogy is the analogy of the sun. And he claims that what imparts truth to the known and the power of knowing to the knower is the form of the good. Now here's how the analogy goes. Light and sight are like the sun, but not the sun. Likewise, by analogy, science and truth are like the good, but not the good, because the good is a higher place of honor. And he adds in, of course, pleasure is not the good. Interestingly or boringly enough, Plato's student Aristotle, in his discussion of happiness, claims that pleasure is not the supreme good. Now, getting back to the point of Plato, the sun, in the physical world, is the author of visibility, enabling us to see, of generation, nourishment, and growth. But the sun himself is not generation. In a like manner, the good is the author of knowledge to all things known, and of their being and essence. But the good is not essence, but far exceeds essence in dignity and power. And thus ends the beginning part before Plato actually gets to the line and the allegory of the cave.